Hi, Heather.
Hi, Avneet.
This is a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about the background ideas and thinking that went into integrating technology into our teacher education program in preparing future teachers. So, I thought we'd start with some questions to help our visitors from Mexico. Yes. Learn a little bit about your sort of philosophies and your ideas that have led to what I think is a really great piece in our program. So I have some questions for you,
Okay,
Heather.
that's great. Let's
Okay.
get started.
So Heather, do you want to just take a minute to introduce yourself
Sure.
and your role?
Sure. My name is Heather Campo, and I have been working with the teacher education program from the first year, so that was in 2007. My role is education librarian. I have a 50% role with teacher ed, so I work with teacher education, and I also work obviously with the library. And my role in teacher education is to support the research and the sort of technology work of faculty and students in this program. And that plays out in a whole number of ways. With the course that I co-teach with Avneet, Education 446, this course has transitioned over time, and Avneet has really been open to shifting it in a way that reflects the philosophy that I've come to with technology and curricular integration in the classroom.
Great. So yes, and I've certainly appreciated your insights in helping to revision it together. So you've started talking about kind of our first question, and we thought we'd use some questions to help guide this little interview/conversation. So the first question is, what does technology integration mean to you?
My role as a teacher librarian is to work with teachers and obviously our students to help them consider technology as a tool in their classroom. And it is that match with curriculum that's incredibly important. You choose technology to use as a tool in your classroom because it works with some curricular or learning need that you have in that classroom. Technology can be, cool and fun, but effective technology integration really considers the range of tools, including technology, in your classroom and how best you can use that to have learning and occur in your classroom. To me, that's the key piece.
Yeah, and this is connected to sort of the next question because there's lots of people who say, well, this might be just a fad or it's just the cool thing to do now because of the 21st century learning and all of the ideas driving that vision. But really, there's bigger and more important reasons to integrate technology into the curriculum and into the classroom. So what would you say are sort of the top three reasons for you?
I think for me is that technology can, when it is used effectively or appropriately, can really transform learning. And we're going to talk, and Avneet will talk more about the technology integration matrix with you, and we've embraced this matrix as a way to help students understand where they are, because technology and learning technology can be quite intimidating for some people. They immediately assume they're not that kind of person, that technology they're stupid with. And we have lots of those conversations with students. Some students are very comfortable, and for them it's a way they can show themselves and stand out and really help their fellow teacher candidates in the program. But for a lot of people, it is that sense of inferiority. They don't understand, or they think they don't, and they shut at the door before we even have a conversation. And for me, it's opening that door to see what possibilities are that exist in teaching for our students and for ourselves. And it is that decision-making piece, linking it with curriculum, linking up with the individual learning needs of students in your classroom. Differentiation in instruction and design is important, and technology is a way that we can help with that. And 21st century learning is the current sort of educational philosophy that's being embraced by a lot of geographies worldwide. And for me, it's part of the puzzle of lesson design and student engagement. It's related to motivation as well. Often students see that technology as something that they want to use. It can be that as well. So there are, I think is that 2 reasons?
Sure.
Curricular motivation, and back to a learning need. You could have students in your classroom, I'm sure you do, who would really benefit from the use of technology. It helps. They can't, with writing output, they don't have very good handwriting or motor skills. It helps with cognitive development and their ability to think through something. It could just be that it really works well with their learning style. So for me, those are the reasons that you're choosing to do that in the classroom.
Yeah, great. So we had a question, because we talked a little bit about it. This has been a big focus in our evolution of this course, revolution of this course, which is the link between technology and curriculum, because we don't want to lose that focus.
No.
It's not just about seeming to be current by knowing how to use an iPad or knowing how to use a smartboard. We wanted this really important connection for our future teachers between technology and curriculum. Can you say a little bit more about that for you?
Sure. For me, curriculum is where we start. And when I have conversations about supporting students for resources or technology in the classroom, it's looking at making the choices around what they're doing, and if technology is the tool of choice to help with that. And some students kind of look at it with the way of, I have to apply it to all students in my classroom. And I look at it as not necessarily. It could be that access-wise, digital divide, you don't have an abundance of, a really well-stocked access to all kinds of variation and fantastic new technology. What you might have is your own laptop or your own iPad in a classroom. And to me, that's powerful. That could be a learning center. That could be something that you set up to work with individuals or groups of students, rather than thinking that you're going to have a class set of laptops or a class set of iPads, and if you don't have that, then technology isn't going to happen in the classroom. It can be very powerful to use it and choose to use it in those sort of individual or group ways versus an application, across the board for everybody. As I said, so you're starting with that idea of what you curricularly are doing, what are the learning needs you need to support in the classroom, and then looking at whether or not technology is the appropriate tool to help with that in your classroom.
Yeah, so it sounds a little bit like in our preparation of our future teachers, it's not just about teaching them about the tools and the ways that it could integrate. It's about helping them become good decision makers too, about whether it's the appropriate tool to use.
Yeah, and that hits at the way technology can transform learning. Abney will talk to you more fulsomely about the matrix, but when you take a look at that matrix, it is a way in and a way to look at learning and how technology can adjust that, how it can support that kind of learning, and how it can transform learning when you do move it along that matrix way. It really can be quite powerful, and some things may not necessarily occur without the use of that technology to make that learning happen. Yeah.
In your experience working with and mentoring the students in their use of technology and integrating it into their practicum experiences, can you think of some examples where the tools have been used or different forms of technology have been used and how they've been integrated with our students?
Yes, and so for example, sometimes it's simply a digital camera. They're doing science and they would like to watch the green beans grow in a plant unit, right? And the ability to capture their observations, maybe it's a nature walk, maybe it's, so science is one example. The idea of scientific journals takes on a whole new dimension when you have video or photo footage of what you're doing as well. You know, in traditional science journaling, you are, you know, obviously writing your observations and drawing, but that addition gives students another opportunity to reflect back later on what they observed and maybe make some of those connections that they couldn't initially do in the moment. It can be a really powerful tool in science, to that effect in a whole variety of ways, whether it's upper level secondary science, capturing of experiments that are going on and what they're doing as part of a lab report, or, you know, as I mentioned, kindergarten nature walk out in the pond, and you're capturing what students are doing in that way to give them that ability later on, that reflection time that we don't often give students to learn. It helps with that kind of idea. Other student in the past was doing a very creative unit on he sort of it was oh, I have to remember this. What was it again? Creating a world. He created this imaginary world, and it was related to science again and related to social studies. And he had created this physical world, and he had students lights out, like with in space, using different forms of technology to mimic, because it was also when Hadfield was up in the space station as well. So they were outside looking in, and he mimicked different experiences using technology and captured them that way. Walking, getting close to it, zooming in as a camera, you know, the satellite moving around the planet, capturing that kind of experience. And then they would look at the footage after for some of those reflection and conversations that he would have with them. It's a very brief view of the great things he did.
Yeah. Well, and later on with our colleagues here, I'll be sharing some of the examples of that we've used in our program.
Yes.
Where we've modeled in technology integration and had our students sort of engage with it so that they had an understanding about it.
Yes.
Because, you know, as we know in teacher education, until our teachers experience it, they don't really know how to use it or what value it has in terms of learning.
Practicum is a key piece to their experiences.
Sure.
And so we introduce them to these ideas, and it's the opportunity in their practicums to try and explore and do a little bit of playing around to see what happens.
Yeah. So this is connected to probably a question that I think all educators face, and that is, what's stopping us? What are some of the reasons why teachers don't integrate technology into the curriculum? Why teacher education programs aren't able to inspire this kind of vision in future teachers?
That's a good question, and one I think about a lot, and probably is where we've come to the approach that we take in our class. Part of it I mentioned already. It's related to people's efficacy or their confidence with technology. Some students feel that they are not, and they are. It's untrue. People use technology. They just use the technology that they're used to. And they don't sort of have necessarily a mindset of exploration and playing and trying. And so this year tries to set up that idea. And so we created the idea of a mentor mash, so that students, technology mentor mash, can get in and sort of play with technology. And I set it up so that it's they choose what piece of technology, so they could go to one that they're already comfortable with, or they could decide to choose something that they're not. And the idea isn't that they have to learn every single nuance and of how that piece of technology works, but really they have to bring forward 3 teachable moments for their fellow candidates. And inevitably, when I say that, they learn way more, because they get into the moment of exploration and play, and they bring out the 3 that they need to show, but learn more about the technology and its use, and begin to be able to speak about how they could potentially use that in a classroom. So that's sort of the key idea, and the idea is to sort of give them those opportunities over the course of the year